Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us, Bob Kramer. Bob is chairman and CEO of Canamex Resources Corp. Canamex can be traded as CSQ on the TSX Venture, and it also can be traded as CNMXF on the OTCQX. Thanks, Bob, for being here with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Judd.
Canamex currently operates the Bruner Project in Nevada. Could you tell us more about the history and the location of the Bruner Project?
It's an interesting one. My partner in this, Greg Hahn, who's the president and COO of Canamex and a professional geologist, geological engineer, and I, when we first started looking at getting involved with this project back in Q1 of 2011, we really zeroed in on the historical resource. It's not 43101 compliant, but the drilling was done by majors over a period of time, and a report was issued in the early 90s indicating a total of 15 million tons at 0.025 OPT for a total of 385,000 ounces. We felt that gave us a starting point. We certainly felt that we could grow things from there in other areas of the property that we felt were underexplored, but we didn't want to get involved in a situation that did not have at least a basis evaluation, because we were obviously putting our own money and friends and associates' money into the company. So that's the starting point. It's extremely well located in the Walker Lane district, about 2 hours east-southeast of Reno. It's in an area of multi-million ounce deposits. Granddaddy in the neighborhood is the Round Mountain mine, which has produced over 10 million ounces of gold over the course of the last couple of decades. So we feel we're in the right spot, great infrastructure, and we're really looking forward to further work on the property.
Bob, talk to us about the drilling success you had in 2013, specifically the last results you had in early November, which you had intersects of close to 58 meters of over 5 grams per ton gold. This is some of the best results that I've seen come out of Nevada in a long time.
Well, you're right. Certainly that's what we believe. And what's really fascinating for us is that this result was on the historical resource area of the property that I had just referred to. As I'm sure we'll talk about here momentarily, we made a major discovery in July of 2012 in an area about a mile away from the historic resource. But this most recent drill hole that you referred to was on the historic resource that had been historically considered to be a bulk tonnage, classic Nevada heap leach, near surface. Greg's view of this was that he felt there was the potential for a high-grade feeder zone that had not been properly explored. So he did quite a bit of work over the course of this last summer, mapping the historical resource area in great detail, analyzing the drill holes that had been drilled by others prior to our involvement on the property, and he developed a scenario for a drill hole that he felt could plausibly demonstrate that indeed this high-grade feeder zone does exist, and we nailed it. As you said, 57.9 meters of 5.23 grams, a stellar hole, and importantly, we pulled out of the hole at 460 feet because we hit a structure and had to pull out, but we were still in mineralization. So that gives us great hope for next year, where we'll obviously be back into that same area. And very importantly, as a part of this analysis over the course of the summer, Greg and his team identified a total of 50 spires on the historical resource area that have had very little drilling in them. The drilling that we just referred to was done under 2 of these spires, so we feel we've got some real significant potential for 2014 in an area that really is completely underexplored on the property.
So, Bob, take us a little bit into the way the management's looking towards 2014. How are we going to progress the project to the next level in 2014?
With pleasure. Well, I think we've covered off the historic resource area, the fact that we have hit this very important intersection, which, by the way, is in terms of grams per ton over that 57.9 meters, is obviously by any standard an excellent result. But the fact that it's in an area a mile away from our high-grade discovery of the summer of 2012 makes it even more impressive. And that grade, when you look at the section on which that drilling took place, you wind up essentially doubling the historic resource figures in terms of grams or OPT, and clearly that's very significant. So that will be certainly an area of focus. And the other area, of course, will be to get back to Penelas East. That was the area where we hit in July of 2012. We hit 110 meters of 4.08 grams. This is blind. It's undercover. So and clearly a discovery that put us on the map. Subsequent to that, we've drilled 44 holes in that area of the property, Penelas East, over the course of the balance of 2012 and into 2013. 38 of the 44 have hit mineralization. I think what would be of real interest to your listeners would be the results of a VLF-EM current density survey that we did and announced towards the end of October of this year. And this map that I'm going to refer to is up on our website. I think it's critically important that people understand this. The object of this exercise was to really delineate hotspots on the property, and we're specifically oriented towards the Penelas East at this point, that have the potential for gold mineralization. And what was absolutely fantastic from our perspective was the area that we drilled, Penelas East, that I've just referred to, was it absolutely fit perfectly into the map, the result of the VLF EM survey, which gives it real credibility. And that same map, again, which your listeners can focus on from our website, identifies a number of other hotspots. It shows Penelas East running further to the north, open to the north, which is what we've said publicly, but it also identifies several really exciting targets that are also open in areas where there's been virtually no drilling. So this area, the colored map area, is a surface area less than 2% of the total area of our property, but it just gives us all kinds of prospects for 2014. So the combination of the stellar result that you've just referred to in the historical resource area and this work that we've done in Penelas East, the discovery area, where we've hit a number of holes in that 3 and 4 gram range, gives us some real hope for a great 2014.
Bob, as we conclude, how do you differentiate, when you speak to investors, Canamex from so many of the other juniors? Could you highlight some of the key shareholder support with Hecla and the financial support, and a little bit about the management and the jurisdiction, and how you differentiate from the others?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. I think it's really important to note that approximately a year ago, after 6 months of due diligence, and that's very important, obviously, 6 months of due diligence, Hecla Mining, a $1 billion New York Stock Exchange company, primarily known as a silver producer, although they just made a major acquisition this year on the gold side, made a strategic investment in us. They purchased 14 million shares at 18 cents a share for an investment of $2.52 million. They have put their senior vice president for exploration, Dr. Dean McDonald, on our board of directors. And we've set up a technical advisory committee that Greg chairs, and Kurt Allen, who is Hecla's director of new projects, sits on that board, along with Dr. Stuart Simmons, who's a world-class expert in these types of epithermal, hydrothermal systems. He has over 70 research papers to his credit, and is a senior research scientist at the University of Utah. So I think what differentiates us is two things. One, the financial kind of muscle that came with that, but in my view, more importantly, is the technical side. That is, we have the ability to reach into a highly knowledgeable and highly successful group, Hecla, when we're looking at things that may affect our future at Bruner. So that's very comforting. From a management perspective, as I indicated earlier, my partner, president, and COO of the company, Greg Hahn, is a professional geologist, geological engineer, what I call a been there, done that geologist, and by that I mean he's taken properties from exploration through development into production. He's run precious metal and base metal mines in the United States. My background is on the financial side. I'm a chartered accountant in Canada and a registered certified public accountant in the state of Illinois. So I think between us, we cover those areas that are really where you really require key management expertise. And we've got great support from our shareholders. We've obviously been impacted, just as everybody else has, with the very difficult market conditions, but we feel we're in the right spot. Nevada, mining-friendly jurisdiction with Hecla as a strategic partner. One thing that I didn't mention and should have when talking about Bruner is the fact that we have already secured the area that we believe will be wind up using as our settling ponds and processing areas for the heap leach operation. And those are on the west side of the property, which catches the sun in the afternoon during the winter, which is important. But very importantly for your listeners to understand is we are 10 miles from a power transmission line. So we'll be able to take power right off the grid. And the other thing that is critically important is we have completed column leach test on the historical resource ore, and that test, which we stopped after 83 days, the -3-inch and the -3/4-inch crush leached at the same rate and with over an 85% recovery. What that should mean when we start looking at things from a production perspective is we should be able to save one stage of crushing. The fact that the -3-inch yields gold at the same rate as the -3/4-inch should indicate that we'll be able to get away with two-stage crushing. You combine that with the power that we've got that we could take off the grid once we get to that point. Those are really key factors in terms of what this project has the capacity to look like from an economic standpoint.
Bob Kramer, Chairman and CEO of Canamex Resources, which can be traded as CSQ on the TSX Venture and as CNMXF on the OTCQX. Thanks so much for coming here today and for giving us an intro into Canamex Resources Corp.
Chad, it's my pleasure. I appreciate your interest in us, and certainly more than happy to speak or communicate with any of your readers, listeners that are so inclined. Thank you very much.